Good afternoon. Thanks for having us, and thanks to the NFFF. When this mentorship program was first thought of, I had a lot of phone calls and conversations at symposiums to a lot of guys and gals in this room, and they really supported us. So we started this program, and it's still new, still developing, but today we're going to share to you what we have in the works right now. I'll be presenting with my good friend and co-worker, Michael Hernandez.
See, I'm not as tall as Jeremy, so good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mike Hernandez. I know what you're probably thinking. I look like some of your high school students, and I got the bad mustache to accommodate it. But I promise you, I'm working really hard to get just like you. It's just going to take some time. I think that we have a really good thing going on at Pflugerville right now. I think it's a mentorship program that is brought on by the young and new cats and enforced by us. And I think it's slowly changing our department into firefighters that really care about where they work and why they work. So hope that you hang on with me and listen and you get some from this presentation. So
we're going to switch back and forth, so just bear with us. Alrighty. So our mentorship program, it consists of 6 firefighters. And unfortunately, 2 of our firefighters aren't in this picture. But we chose 6 firefighters with 5 years or less of experience. And I understand that sounds different to have our new firefighters being taught by newer firefighters. But the reason we're doing this because when we walk in the room, we're hoping that we're not intimidating our newer firefighters so they can ask us questions. So whenever the class starts, we ask all of the chiefs, captains, lieutenants to exit the room so we can have that one-on-one conversation with our new guys. The ultimate mission for this is to develop new and successful firefighters and create that foundation for our firefighters. Now, we understand once they hit the trucks, they might not use us as mentors anymore, but our goal is to have that early exposure to our firefighters in the academy throughout the program.
all right, so our students, the ones that we talk to, so we have 2 groups of students. So on the picture on the top right, we have our high school students, and that's our EMS program. We do have fire and EMS. I just obtained my paramedic certification it's been 6 months now. So I've kind of found my new love. I love firefighting, but now I have a passion for EMS. So that's kind of where I gravitate towards and where I help with most. So on that day, we brought our ambulance out to the high school. They were really hyped to kind of get in it, turn on the lights. We let them mess with the siren, and we showed them everything that we used. And it's funny because before we actually did that, everybody was kind of got the post-lunch blues, they weren't really into listening to me or anything that we had to say. But when we brought the ambulance around and we actually showed them what we do and how we work inside of it, they really kind of lightened up and had a good time. And then they were able to focus for their lesson. So that's our picture up top. Our picture at the bottom is our cadet program. So Pflugerville just recently started their cadet program about a year and a half ago now. And we've already been through 2. In each class, we start with 50, and then we hire the bulk of that class when we're all done. And so that's a different set of students. These are civilians coming straight from the street, ranging anywhere from 18 right out of high school all the way to 47 with tons of life experience. So it's good for us as mentors to teach the high school students and our cadets that come through our fire department. And it's good for us to learn from them because, like I said, we got people who are a lot older than us and they have life experience they can pass on. So those are the lessons that we're continuing to learn. And then, like it's already been stated so many times before with other speakers, mentorship early on is key. So that's why I think I'm very passionate about working with the high schoolers, right? And I grew up in Pflugerville, so there is that too. There's nothing better than growing up in the city and actually getting to work for your dream fire department. And then you get to give back to that. It's a circle, and I love everything about it. So these are our types of students, and this is who we kind of tend to mentor.
Alrighty, so we have our different types of students, right? So we have our recruits, our cadets, and our high schoolers. Our recruits are already certified, EMT and fire certified, so their recruit academy is only 6 weeks. Our cadets is a 6-month program, and we're putting them through EMT and fire school. And the reason I'm saying that is because when I got hired, I was a recruit, and half of our class already had fire experience. So every lunch break, water break, there was a firefighter in my group that was telling me about the fire service, what to expect about the fire service, and some do's and don'ts. Now, when we have our high schoolers and our cadets, they might not have these conversations, so we have to be that firefighter for them and to kind of create those conversations for them. So there's no need to reinvent the wheel. There's so much information in the fire service. We have to just gather that information and give it to our firefighters. So we decided to use our 16 firefighter life safety initiatives to make a topic for every class we have. So every class we have, there's a certain topic that we'll talk about and go from there. So I won't go over all 16 of them, but I'll go over a couple of them. So for number one is culture change. There's a lot of good cultures in the fire service. Now, we're not wanting to change all the cultures in the fire service, but there's some things that we can do to improve it. There's things that happened 20 years ago that we look at now and say, why are we doing that? But there's also things that we're doing today that these newer firefighters are going to be looking at us 20 years from now and saying, why are we doing that? So they're going to be a part of that change. And that ties down to empowerment, having the ability to speak up. We want our firefighters to understand that if your company officer says jump, you're going to jump. If they say get down, you're going to get down. But there might be a time in your career where you have to speak up and say, hey, I see this, or maybe this is not the safest thing. That's going to be a small percentage in your career, but our firefighters have to be able to say this is either dangerous or life-threatening. And then our training and certification. Training and education is the foundation of the fire service. So we really try to teach our firefighters to not take a gap year in your fire service. And I'll kind of explain that with college. When you take one semester off in college, the next thing you know is 2 semesters. And then after that, it's been 5 years and you have been working on your degree. Now in the fire service, when you're on probation, you're told what classes to take, what trainings to do. And then after your probation, they're focused on to the next firefighter. So between the years of 2 and 4 is when you're probably going to have that gap year, when you finally get that flexibility and that freedom to do what you want to do. But the question is, what are you going to do when no one is telling you exactly what to do and when to train? So we try to tell them, don't take a gap year in your fire service. Year 2 and 4 is the most important part because it really shows who you are as a firefighter. And then public education. Public education is kind of interesting because it's fun to break doors and throw ladders, I have to be honest with you. But the most important part is public education. This is how we stop incidents from happening from the very beginning. So we actually moved our chapter 22 of our textbook is community risk reduction. And we made that our chapter 1. So that's the first thing we talk about is how to public education and community risk reduction reduce these incidents before they happen. And then we can work on the mitigation aspect of it.
Buying in from the top. So this program, when we kind of talk to firefighters that are outside of our department, we let them know what's going on. Their main thing or their concern is that the group is led by young firefighters. And in fact, the person who's been with the department the longest, the mentor, he's got 6 years under his belt. But like we said, we have come to find out that these cadets and these high school students, they find us more approachable and they're able to ask questions that they think are silly. But in order to get ultimate support from our department, we had to have buy-in from the top. So that meant meeting with our officers, it meant meeting with different lieutenants that were our mentors, captains, paramedics, anything or anybody that had a change in our fire department careers or our lives so far. And so we met with these people and we kind of asked them, what do you wish new people knew that might be hard for you to tell them? I don't know if that makes sense. And basically it all kind of boiled down to just hard work, right? A lot of the times people say the new generation, they don't know how to work hard, right? But they just might have a different way of going about it than people are used to. They kind of like to talk things out a little more. I know I do. And I feel like that's what makes it more approachable for them to talk through their problems, whatever they're going through, so we can overcome that together. But along with buying it from the top, we got some pictures up here. So the first picture is my crew currently, and on the left is our lieutenant, me and Jeremy's lieutenant actually, and we just got finished doing a workout. So one of my passions is fitness, you know, in the fire service, and we just got done doing a hero WOD. I don't know if any CrossFitters in here, but a hero WOD is basically a workout dedicated to a fallen firefighter, police officer, military, first responder, teachers, whatever the case might be. They're pretty hard, so what I would do is I get online and I try to find an approachable one that everyone can do. As soon as I walk in the station that day, I write it on my whiteboard, right? I don't force people to do it with me, but before I do it, I kind of scan the room. I look at the probies mostly, and I'm like, come on, you're going to do it? But I encourage them to work out with me. And what makes it easier is when we have a lieutenant like this one who bought into what we're selling, who believes in, you know, what we're trying to make, and he believes in our program, and he does the workouts with us. So we have the workout on the board, he'll work out with us, and that makes it really easy for new cadets or high schoolers on rideouts to be a part of the crew, you know, do the tradition, crew cohesion, and we just get in there and we sweat together. The picture on bottom, so it's kind of small, but I'll just see if I can explain it real quick. So this picture, the two firefighters that are bunked out, they are both from our cadet program. The one on the deck gun, he was in our first cadet program. We didn't have the opportunity to mentor them as much, but we were there. The one on the end of the hose line, he was in our second cadet program. We were with them a lot. 6 months, we were with them once a month, every month. And the firefighter lieutenant, actually standing in front of him, was one of mine and Jeremy's mentors that we had when we first started. But when I first started, that lieutenant was a firefighter, so he was my mentor. And then he ranked up. And then we became the mentors of these two firefighters, and that day I was driving. So I like to take pictures as time goes on because you can actually see the evolution of our firefighters in such a short period of time. I mean, I've only been doing it for 5 years, but I still remember being that probie, and now that day I was driving. And we have one firefighter that's operating the deck gun. He was on the end of the nozzle, but now he's up there, and we have a new firefighter embarking on his brand new journey. And I'm going to come back in a year or two. I'm going to take another picture, and I guarantee you we're probably going to be in different spots, teaching new things, improving the lives of these young firefighters. So I just thought that was a good training picture to show where we're at now, how we've changed, and how we're going to continue to change. All right. Oh, still me. So I believe it's Miss Henry, correct? Okay. So you talked about finding something outside of work to do to relieve a mental stress and improve fortitude, correct? So for me, like I said, that's physical fitness. In our department, we're really big on learning our flow. We learn our flow outside of work, something that isn't firefighting. We're all firefighters. It's what we do. It's in our blood. It's what we talk about all the time. But it's good to find things that you're passionate about outside of work and bring your brothers and sisters in on that. And get them, doing extracurriculars that have nothing to do with firefighting, but just, living a healthy lifestyle. For me, that's jiu-jitsu. So once a month, every month, I got with my local jiu-jitsu gym, and they do an open mat that's free for firefighters. Okay, it's at the end of every month, and I tell my I tell my department, most of the time it's the new cats that come out, and we don't do anything crazy. We do kind of like an intro class, and then we'll do some easy rolling. But it's fun, it's new, it's something that gets them, trying something different, getting active, maybe burning off some steam, whatever the case might be. And plus, not in this picture, but our battalion chief has come with us to one of these open mats, so that's really cool if you want to, go roll with the chief. I thought that's pretty awesome. Another thing that we do as mentors is there's a whole bunch of other things that go on outside the department right there. We're at our local CrossFit gym, and that was after Murph, so they sent out the invite to us. And anyone from our department can go, but as mentors, we sign up for these things and we show up to encourage this, fit lifestyle, this healthy lifestyle, and doing all these extra things. And to bring it all back around for the high school students, what we kind of teach or encourage for those teachers or those students is, tell your kids, that this is like their crew. Even though they're in high school, this is their station, this is their crew, this is their family. So you need to encourage them to maybe hang out outside of school. I'm not saying you need to hang out with them, but you need to encourage that crew cohesion that goes on when they're not sitting down in school all day. And I think that's going to improve their learning, and it'll also encourage them to get into the fire service even more. So, and then one thing I didn't put here either is we're going to do our first 9/11 memorial climb this year. And so we're going to reach out to our new cadet class. They're going to come and they're going to help. Hopefully they're going to see us doing that, have something to look forward to. We're going to reach out to our high school students. Hopefully they can come out and help and maybe even do the civilian portion of the climb. And that'll give them something to strive towards and look forward to. So that's just kind of what I like to do for my flow outside of work.
So this program started for our cadets, and it quickly started growing on us. And we got some opportunities from the high school to start mentoring our high schoolers. So one of the first things they asked us to do was to help out with their TPSA, or you can just say their firefighter games, firefighter competition. So they asked us if we can come to the schools and help train them to get ready for this competition. And they also came to our fire stations while we were on shift, and we got to train with them on bunker drills, search and rescue, and agility skills. And the day of the competition, at first we thought it was going to be a fail because we couldn't go back and watch them compete. So we had to sit in the lobby, but we realized that that was probably the best thing for them. So in between their breaks, they're stressing out because they're nervous. But for the skills, there's a table there and somebody brought some Uno cards. That was the best thing we could do, was sit there and play Uno with them after their skills to ease their mind, or before their skills, talk to them about the actual competition that they're going to do. So just being there for these firefighters and talking to them about their future. A lot of these kids wanted to go to the military, college, or the fire service, and we told them all three options is perfectly fine. But what I can do is show you what I do. So whatever you want to do, go ahead and do that. But just being that support for our firefighters, that's what we need, and especially for the high schoolers. In this next slide, I had the opportunity to go to our high school on the recruiting team and talk to our 8th graders. So the 8th graders came to the high school for a career day to prepare for our high school different programs you could join. So for our program, you have to start in 8th or 9th grade, start signing up for it so you can be ready for your junior year to be in our fire program. So I'm 26 years old. I'm going to the high school talking to 8th graders. I know I might look young, but I might seem like an old head to 8th graders. Now, they're asking me questions about the fire service. I can answer that. But when they ask me questions on how do you manage your lifestyle with school and how do you manage the fire academy at the same time, I can't answer that question. But someone that can answer the question is a high schooler that's already in the program. So if you want to recruit high schoolers in your program, you need to bring high schoolers with you so they can advocate with you as well. And it was also another opportunity to mentor. When we first got there, our high schooler didn't really want to talk to anybody. He was kind of nervous to talk to them and tell them about the program. I think that took about 3 people coming to our booth, and after that, man, he was just talking the whole time, and we built that confidence with them. And one thing in the fire service, if you build your firefighters' competency, that's going to build their confidence. And if you build their confidence, that's going to build the morale in the fire service. So the first thing we need to do is teach everybody as much as possible. So our mentorship meetings, like I said, this was really designed for our cadet program, and it's growing so fast that we're getting the opportunity to talk to everybody. So we meet with our cadets for 6 months. On the very first day of their fire academy and the very last day of their fire academy, we meet with them 1 time a month for an hour and a half. And a lot of the reviews after our program was that they wanted to meet us more. But unfortunately, we all know in the fire academy there's a lot of things going on, and the schedule is already very packed. So an hour and a half, and when we get there, we share our contact information. We don't want to be a mentors that only focus on fire service. There's things that we have encountered in the fire service and that we could possibly help them with. Either that's lifestyle with your family and the fire service, or mental health, or whatever it is. We leave our contact information so you can call us at any time and we can help you out. So we study 3 things when we go to our meetings. Like I said earlier, our main topic is our 16 life safety initiatives, but we like to dive into 3 different things. LODDs. We're typically not finding new ways to kill firefighters, so why not learn much as possible? So when we go in there, we'll dissect a LODD case study, and we're not going to say what they did wrong or what could be better. We just want to point out some red flags that we could possibly look out for in the fire service. And then our fire history. Why do we do what we do? Having that station pride. And lastly, our scenarios. Arguably the best part of our classes is our scenarios, because we get a lot of engagement from our firefighters. They ask us questions, and we give them scenarios that we've encountered in the fire service. Either that's what to bring on the first day of your fire academy or how to deal with the conflict in the fire service.
All right, so line of duty deaths. When the first cadet academy took place in Pflugerville, they didn't really focus on any line of duty death study research. And then when I went through my academy, I remember that we focused on a couple different cases, and it really made me care about what I was doing and why I was doing it. And it also taught me how to dissect these studies and what to look for. So what we started to do for these cadets, and hopefully we can with the high schoolers in the future on the fire side and EMS side, is we'd go in there for our monthly meeting and we would talk to them about a line of duty death. And what we would do is we have all their emails, so we would email them maybe roughly 2 weeks prior before we got there. So if they wanted to do any research on their own, they could, and they could partake in some active discussion. But if not, that's fine, because their cadets are super busy. I kind of get what's going on. We make our own research out of it, and we just kind of dissect it for them, and we'll go through it together. And like Jeremy said, we'll just look for any red flags or anything for future studies that they can point out or they can recognize if they're ever, unfortunately, a near miss or in a LODD situation. So we have two pictures here. On the top is the Charleston 9. So on their second meeting, we dissected that line of duty death, or those line of duty deaths, and we talked about that scene and how that unfolded. And then on the bottom, we had a tribute video to firefighter Scott Deem, and we played that on day one, where I believe the first lesson that they do of that day, we just talk to them, and then we close it with that tribute video, and that shows them, like, this is real. This is what it is. We're in Pflugerville, Texas. This was in San Antonio, Texas. Strip mall, CrossFit gym. We got those too. This is legit. And so that's how we close out that first lesson. And, you know, I relate it to my personal life because this was the line of duty death that happened when I was in the fire academy, and I was thinking about quitting. And then this happened. We researched it. We talked about it. And it sparked my motivation to keep going, keep learning, and pass it on, you know, to the next generation. Or my generation, but, you know, the next firefighters. So yeah, that's just, I think it's really important to talk about these in fire academies and even in high school programs. One, it just makes it real, and two, it teaches them how to research. So I think it's pretty beneficial.
So we also talk about our fire department history. And now, I think this is important because if you're going to the gas station, HEB, and you're wearing a firefighter shirt, and somebody else is talking to you, and they know you're a firefighter, they're going to ask you some certain questions about your department. And to be a firefighter, you have to understand how many calls you run a year and the reason we do what we do. So you want to understand your fire culture. We can't change your fire culture if you don't know your own fire culture. And then understanding their why and knowing the department's mission. So on this next slide, we'd like to tell our firefighters what we do in our organization, how many calls you run a year, how busy are we at different stations. This is important because we don't want them to come in our department thinking that they're going to come and play video games all day. We're a busy department, and we're growing so fast that if you're not ready for growth, you might get left. So, like I said earlier, training and education is important. We train because the calls we run. And I understand that some departments, this might not seem like a lot, but for a department that is small and still growing, this is a lot of calls for us. Just knowing who you are. So how many firefighters do we have? And even being at symposiums, firefighters always ask you, how many square miles do you cover? How many citizens do you respond to? So these are some golden nuggets that we can give our firefighters just to help them out in the future. And then our ISO Class 1. That's something that we're very proud about. We just got our ISO Class 1 about 2 years ago. So we tell them how we got our ISO Class 1 and what it all entails. So to be an ISO Class 1 is something that I take pride with. And I had the opportunity to have some advocates come to Pflugerville, and I got to walk them around our cadets, and they got to speak to our cadets and also our instructors. And it was really cool. At the end of that, one advocate came to me and said, every time I talk to one of your cadets or instructor, they stuck their chest out high and talked about the department because they knew what they were talking about. So setting them up for success.
So scenarios. We end out every cadet lesson with our department with certain scenarios. And when we go back to the high school next year, we're going to implement these with our students as well. And so these scenarios are mostly goofy, and for some of you, they'll probably sound trivial, but it's just probie scenarios, right? How to stay clear on probation, the right thing to do, to not be the first one to sit down when you eat, and to not be the last one to get up when it's time to clean, right? We all kind of know those things, but these new firefighters, they don't really know the tradition yet. So we'll give them some scenarios, and then when we do these mentorship meetings, it's just us mentors in the classroom with these new firefighters. Anyone, their instructors, or anyone from, you know, driver and up, they walk out. So we can have open, constructive conversations with them. And it's proven to work pretty well because some of them kind of come back and they tell us that scenario you gave us, we actually ran into. And we're like, yeah, because we did it too. So all these scenarios are stuff in our mentorship meetings that we get together and we're like, hey, what happened on your probation that you wish you did better? We'll write it down. We'll tell it to our cadets, and we'll see what they say. Sometimes their answers are wrong. Most of the times, they're spot on the money. So that's what we do for our scenarios. And then we got these three pictures here. So on the left, I know we have some firefighters from Ohio. So I'm sure you're aware of Stipe Miocic, my favorite UFC firefighter. That was in 2016 when he won his first heavyweight, and he went back, put the belt on. I like to think he continued cleaning the station and didn't just do this for the picture. But he was cleaning toilets, so we show these to our cadets, and we say, if Stipe Miocic can do it, you can do it. You can keep doing it. Keep having pride. Next is just some firefighters training. Do some nozzle handling techniques. I am not a truckie. I'm on the ambulance most of the time nowadays, but I like to say I'm an engine guy, so that's what I'm passionate about, and that's kind of what I like to teach on the fire side, hose handling techniques and how to move that. So that's something I'm passionate about. And then on the far right is going to be your traditional ceremony engine push-in, right? When we get a brand new engine or whatever the case might be for that station, we push into the station for good luck. And that's just something that we just recently started back up again to get the tradition rolling. And these are all things that we hopefully can invite the public or those high school students to come to our department or our station and watch us do all these things. If they ever have a question, come knock on the door and they're interested, we give them a tour. We show them what we do. We show them that we actually clean our own toilets, and we have a good time. So those are the things that we're passionate about. I actually have a scenario for all of you guys, so I believe it's on the next slide. I'll read it to you. All right, and sorry for any grammatical errors. I am a firefighter after all, so just bear with me. So after I read it, I'll give you guys roughly 5 minutes, and then I like to hear answers. So, all right, I'm gonna step away. You are an instructor for an EMT academy at your local high school. You notice some students are taking the class in order to pursue EMS or healthcare in the future. Some want an enhanced resume for college. Some just thought they would get a free class period during school. The students who see this as a time to not pay attention begin to question why they even need to learn these things. How do you redirect their focus and continue to ensure their cooperation throughout the rest of the course?
Our group was discussing the fact that if you set up early on, at the very beginning of the class, that it is a privilege to be in your class, especially if you're in the lucky position. Like for me, I have a waiting list for my class, and I know they talked that there's other programs that have that. But when you stand up and say, look, it is a privilege to be in this class, and because you're here, other students are not. And when you make that kind of a bedrock at the very beginning of class and remind them what a privilege it is to be in that class, hopefully that kind of avoids the situation altogether. It might not, but you're trying to get ahead of it and say, hey, you're lucky to be here. Treat it as the privilege it is.
Yes, ma'am. I like it. Anybody else? All right, cool. Yeah, so life-saving interventions that you can learn early on in high school is really important because you never know when you're going to be your worst day ever with a family member, friend, whatever the case might be. And absolutely, it's a privilege to be in these classes. For us, when we kind of walk into the classroom and we go and we help with EMS or fire, we're meted at the door by the instructor or the teacher. And they're with these students day in and day out. So obviously, they're a little more tired than us and not as patient. That's completely understandable because I'm with the kids for only a day every other month, and I'm like, oh, wow, I get it. But we're able to come in as mentors and just show that compassion and just be able to let them know that it's okay, we get it that they're high school students, but we also realize that a lot of the people in these classes, maybe they might not go EMS, nursing, healthcare, fire, but they're going to grow up, they're going to do something. And if that's not the fire service, they're going to be in the community. Maybe they might be the mayor of the city one day. Maybe they're going to have to vote for their fire department for whatever they might need in the future. And if they fully understand what we do as a department and all the interventions that we do that matters, they're going to know what they're voting for. They're going to know who to support, and they're going to know why they support us. And that's because we took the time, along with the teacher, to let them know how we fully operate and how things are done. So those are all great answers. I learned a lot from you guys, and I'm going to take that back with me as well. But that was our little scenario, so thank you for partaking.
Our goal right now is we have quarters. So every 3 months they have their skills. And what we're trying to do is go to their quarterly skills testing and talk to them and give them little scenarios for more direct fire-related stuff. Like one class we did was over like people exams and stuff, talking about some things that we didn't know in the fire service. So we're trying to talk to them every quarter if possible. But once they hit the trucks, it's kind of hard to keep engaging with them because we have more classes coming in and there's different shifts and all of our mentors are on different shifts, so it's kind of hard to get out there. But that's our goal, to one day be able to continue to mentor our firefighters when they're about to make it a driver or lieutenant or captain and even higher. But as of right now, it's mainly focused for the cadet programs and the recruits while they're in the academies.
I got to add on to that, we have all of their numbers as well, and so I just pick a random number. And every week I try to call a new cadet. I haven't gotten to all of them yet, but how's it going? How's shift work like? Are you doing all right? Everything going good? Do you want to hang out later? Do you want to come work out? And I try to reach out. It's not always successful, but a lot of the guys and gals, they do pick up and they partake in conversation, and they're able to be like, oh, they actually called, on my day off. I do have someone to talk to. And it's also opened avenues and conversations for them to talk about struggles they are having on shift. And that was some advice we got from our chief too, which is, you're not going to be able to reach everybody, but just pick that random number each week and call, but make sure it's a different person every time. So at this point, we're still their mentor, but now we're also transitioning to let them know we're their friend too. We're not just their senior firefighter or driver or whatever the case might be.
So here recently, to add on that, if a company officer is having some problems with a firefighter, they've actually called us to say, hey, can you go talk to this guy for us in your off times? And for a little bit, they were going to the training field on the weekends. If a firefighter was struggling with throwing a ladder, then we'll try to go on our off time to help them throw that ladder. Yes, sir.
High school program, exactly what is involved in your high school program? Is that a program that transitions into your cadet program, or are they two separate?
So as of right now, it's separate. So our high school program, we have about 4 schools in our district, and they all go to one school for the high school fire and EMS program. Now, once they graduate high school, they're EMT and fire certified, and then they can reapply with us as a recruit and go through our 6-week program. Now, if a firefighter from high school doesn't finish their fire or EMS, we've actually had firefighters come and apply for our cadet program, and then they go through their EMT and fire school again. So recently we've had a few firefighters from high school that got hired on with this, but unfortunately right now it's separated. Yes, sir.
Is your high school program 2 years?
2 years, yes. So they start their junior year and they finish their senior year. The only difficult thing with recruiting is that they can't start their junior year and decide they want to do it. They have to start the paperwork early on in their freshman and sophomore year to be ready for the junior year. Yes, ma'am.
With the 2-year program, do you start with EMS or do you start with fire?
So the high school program,
For both.
yeah, so they do fire one for a semester and then they kind of alternate through it. So at the end of their 2 years, they'll have it all done, but it's not done at the exact same time.
And they are separated, the fire and EMS, so there's a lead instructor for the fire and EMS, and yeah, they're in different classrooms, they do their own thing, because there's a lot of students who want to do EMS and not fire, and vice versa.
Oh, okay, so you do have, so they can do a single-year program, it's just one or the other?
Yes, they
Yeah.
can do fire or EMS.
So we recently just started that. At first it was only you have to do fire in your EMS. Now we have other programs, so you can just do EMS if you would like. So I would say take a picture of our screen, but it might be kind of difficult to read. But if y'all have any questions or any further advice in the future, y'all can please email us and reach out to us. Thank you for your time, and it was an honor to talk to y'all today.
Thank you.